What do you think best exemplifies British culture? What makes one British?
Well, as I say, it's a combination of things. It's partly about arts and culture. As we talked about having a long history, a real pride in our national museums and our heritage, as well as some of the most innovative and creative sectors from film to entertainment to music. So that's part of it. But I also think that the UK values are really part of the UK culture as well, whether it's about supporting rule of law, democracy, freedom. So these are all things that I think people associate with the UK.
สหราชอาณาจักรหรือ UK คือดินแดนแห่งฟุตบอลดนตรีน้ำชาวัฒนธรรม pop culture และสถาบันการศึกษาที่มีชื่อเสียงต่างๆมากมายเลยนะครับและในขณะเดียวกันทุกวันนี้ก็ปฏิเสธไม่ได้ว่า UK ยังคงเป็นหนึ่งในผู้เล่นที่มีบทบาทสำคัญมากในเวทีโลกวันนี้ผมและทีม The Matter ได้มีโอกาสมาพูดคุยกับท่านทูตมาร์ค กูดิงเอกอัครราชทูตสหราชอาณาจักรประจำประเทศไทยวันนี้เรามาอยู่กันที่ทำเนียบเอกอัครราชทูตแล้วเดี๋ยวไปพูดคุยกับท่านทูตพร้อมๆกันเลยครับ Ambassador, it's an honor and a great privilege talking to you today.
Thank you.
We're going to be discussing many different things from British culture and society to governmental policies in the UK regarding many things, innovation, education, diversity and inclusion, as well as climate action.
Great.
And lastly, we're going to be discussing cooperation between our two countries, between Thailand and the United Kingdom. I hope we can learn many things from you today and your diplomatic experiences. First of all, let's start with some light-hearted questions. By light-hearted, I mean music.
Okay.
Yeah. So we all know that the UK has produced many globally influential bands and musicians like Oasis, Coldplay, the Beatles, of course, Pink Floyd, the Smiths, Blur, and Radiohead. But first of all, for you, at the moment, which bands or musicians from the UK are your favorite?
Oh, there are so many. I don't know. I mean, we have visiting musicians from the UK to Thailand all the time. I think Coldplay was here recently, Ed Sheeran and others. So these are all good. But I think UK music is a hugely successful industry and has been for many decades. And I think these days about 10% of downloads of music are British music around the world. So it's enormously successful. The culture of music in the UK is very vibrant. It's very diverse, very inclusive, and I think that makes it very popular around the world.
Before we delve into the more serious topics, another thing we can immediately think of when we talk about the UK is football, and you mentioned football. I think Thai people will agree that it's a huge thing in Thailand. I mean, every football match involving British teams have always been major events in Thailand. But for the British people, how significant is the sport in their everyday lives? And to go further, how do you see its influence being further leveraged in a Thai context?
Well, as you said, Premier League football is massively popular here in Thailand. Just before you came, I was having lunch with Kun Ayawat from King Power, who of course owns Leicester City. And so we've just spent the last hour or two talking about football. There are over 3 billion supporters of Premier League around the world. So it's fantastic in terms of bringing people together, but also in terms of health. So people play football around the world and they become healthier by doing so. So I think that's really positive. Thailand companies own various British football clubs, like I mentioned Leicester City, but Oxford United, Sheffield Wednesday as well. So I think it's a really important part of the UK-Thailand relationship and one that I certainly want to encourage going forward. And by that I mean having more British teams coming to Thailand, as well as more people-to-people contact. And we even had the Premier League trophy visiting Thailand last month, so we were able to get lots of people together to enjoy that.
And how do you see British soft power through things like this, music as well as other means like TV shows, art and cuisine playing a role internationally? And more importantly is, what might Thailand learn from the UK's approach to this matter?
Well, I think it's a really interesting question about what is soft power. So you've mentioned a few things there, and British culture, as we've said, is very diverse, very inclusive, and you've got both the historical culture in the UK, but also real innovation. We have things like Premier League and sports, so I can't go anywhere in Thailand without finding people who've got a favourite football club in the UK somewhere. There's movies, films, James Bond, whatever. So these are all very important parts of the UK soft power, as well as things like education, having high quality education with rigorous academic standards, media like the BBC, having objective journalism, high quality journalism. But I think soft power is also about values and things that people associate with the UK. And by British values, I think of things like the rule of law, I think of freedom, I think of diversity and inclusion. So all these things, fairness, that people associate with the UK that I'm very proud of as a British person. And I think these are values that we need to uphold and support.
Talking about values, I believe I understand that British society today is deeply committed to values like diversity and inclusivity. So I would like to know, how do ordinary people in the UK as well as elsewhere feel the impact of these commitments?
In UK society, we've made huge progress in recent decades on diversity and inclusion, and I think respect for other people is a core British value. But of course we still have challenges, so this is a long journey. So for instance, we have plenty of women in our parliament. We have, I think, a greater proportion of LGBT plus parliamentarians in the UK parliament than anywhere else in the world. But actually, if you look at, say, CEOs, the top 100 British companies, there are hardly any women. I think it's under 10% of them are women. So there's still big challenges. But I think the direction of travel and the objective is very agreed now in terms of we recognise we must do more to promote inclusion and diversity. And our society is stronger as a result, our businesses perform better as a result, and our people are happier when they can be themselves.
When we talk about gender equality, that includes the LGBTQIA plus community as well. And I understand that you yourself are a member of this LGBTQIA plus community. Could you describe your own personal experiences within this context of promoting gender equality?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an example of an area which has developed very quickly in my lifetime. So it was only in the 1960s in the UK that homosexuality was decriminalised. And since I've been an adult, we've had things like same-sex marriage, we've had laws changed on adoption, age of consent and other things. So I think what's positive is that these things can change very quickly in a positive direction. And I think we're seeing some of this in Thailand at the moment with equal marriage legislation passed in the last few months. But I also think we need to be aware of the ongoing challenges. And in the UK, the issues affecting the LGBT plus community today include things like still cases of discrimination, access to health services, bullying in schools. So there are still challenges, even though we've made a lot of progress. And I think there's a real opportunity now for the UK and Thailand to work together on some of these things, not just LGBT plus issues, but actually anything, whether it's gender equality, disabled rights, whatever, to make sure we're learning from each other's experience and actually doing the best for our citizens.
About UK education. We know that UK universities have always been in high demand amongst Thai students. Why do you think British education is so appealing? What are its key advantages that might benefit Thai students and those considering studying in the UK?
I think answer number one is quality. So UK universities and colleges have a fantastic reputation because they produce the best quality education. So we've got 2 or 3 UK universities in the global top 10. So I think that quality is what people are looking for, and I think they are centres for research as well. Something like 14% of all cited research papers come from UK universities, even though the UK population is at less than 1% of the global population. So they're recognised as centres for excellence and expertise. If you're looking to study somewhere in English language, obviously that's UK is a centre for the English language, which is very, very positive. But also it's a very cosmopolitan and diverse student population. So if you're deciding to study in the UK, you know for sure you're going to know people from all around the world. You'll have a brilliant network. You'll meet other people from similar backgrounds and others from very different backgrounds. So I think the experience of studying in the UK is very positive. It's fun. You're included, but also you have the opportunity to travel around the 4 nations of the UK, England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. So the feedback we get from people who experience education in the UK is usually very positive. So I would encourage all Thai students to think about opportunities in the UK. And one thing I should add as well is that there's the graduate route, which means that you're allowed to stay in the UK for 2 years after you graduate to work. So you can actually get work experience at the end of your degree course, as well as the benefit of the degree itself.
Definitely. I understand that the UK is also strongly committed to climate action. There have been initiatives like the London Congestion Charge and the Ultra Low Emission Zone, or ULEZ, being widely discussed in Thailand.
Yes.
Could you share some of the key policies that the UK is using to combat climate change?
Of course, and I've seen also the coverage here in Thailand of congestion charging maybe as an option for Bangkok in the future. But I think there are lots of different things the government can do and the UK government has done. So the first is we've set our net zero commitment, so net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2015 in British law. So that is in the law now, so it's, everybody knows it's going to happen. We also set different targets in the future, so we've set dates for when all new vehicles cannot be petrol or diesel, when gas boilers will not be allowed. And because of those future targets, both investors and consumers know the direction of travel. So if you're a company and you're investing in automotives, for example, you're not going to invest a lot of money in petrol and diesel vehicles because you know for sure that by the mid-2030s, all new cars are going to have to be renewable. So that drives investment decisions, and the same with consumers. So what you want is a virtuous circle where more investment goes into green technologies, which lowers the price and increases efficiency, etc.
Another area that have been central to the British policies is human rights and equality. So how does the UK advocate for these principles both domestically and globally, including in Thailand?
Well, there's a lot we can do. I think we need to be clear what the principles are at the moment. I mentioned before, rule of law, democracy, personal freedoms are very values that the UK holds dear as well. But I would say as well, international law, for example, needs to be upheld. And we see various situations around the world where countries are not adhering to international law, which has a very negative impact. The obvious case being Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine and the terrible humanitarian catastrophe that has caused. So I think we need to look at our own societies, and that applies to Thailand and the UK in terms of where the challenges lie. And so Thailand has just become a member of the Human Rights Council, has just been elected, but also looking at situations close to us. So if I look at this region, the Mekong sub-region in Southeast Asia, I look at the situation in Myanmar and the sort of terrible human rights situation there with a military dictatorship, with terrible humanitarian atrocities. And I think in that situation, Thailand has a very unique role as a neighbour of Myanmar with a very long border and certain influence, I would say. And the UK obviously has a historical relationship with Myanmar where we're also keen to support the return quickly to democracy. So I think we can work together internationally, but we also have to start at home and look at our own records.
Now that you mentioned cooperation between the UK and Thailand, could you share some more examples of cooperation, the recent examples that are making a tangible difference in the everyday lives of the people both in the UK and Thailand?
Yeah, well, we have a very good relationship with the Thai government and new ministers, and I would say that there's a big overlap in the UK government's focus on economic growth that delivers for the UK people, and the Thai government's focus on economic growth and growth that delivers for the Thai people. So I think there's a lot of common areas there. We have a trade relationship between the UK and Thailand that's worth about £6 billion a year, so it's already quite substantial. And this, of course, creates jobs, it creates economic growth, it creates wealth. So we are trying to work with the Thai government to break down the barriers to trade and to boost investment in both directions. And that, I would say, has a direct impact on the lives of our citizens in Thailand and the UK. Beyond that, we're working a lot in certain sectors which will drive growth in the future, but also drive sustainability. So I mentioned green technology just then, which is a huge area. We do a lot of work in health and genomics. So we have a genomics partnership that will ultimately transform delivery of healthcare from diagnostics to treatment with the very latest cutting-edge research and technology. We have a large science and innovation partnership, and again, these will all transform the way that we're living before long. And then the other sort of big area of our work is on the security side and working together to make our citizens safer. And that applies to in areas like defence, counter-terrorism, cybersecurity, as well as working together on some of the big global and regional challenges at the moment. So I would say making our citizens more prosperous and making our citizens more secure are the two central elements where we have a lot to gain.
All right, let's wrap up our interview with something a bit more personal and closer to home. And we're talking about your personal and professional experiences as a diplomat. I understand that this isn't your first posting in Asia. How have your experiences with Asia, and especially Thailand, been so far, personally and professionally?
Yeah, I would say my experience in Thailand so far has been very positive indeed. So I spent my first year here learning Thai, and I'm over 3 years into the job now, and I like it so much I have extended my time here. So I'm here for another 2 years, and I think the opportunity for the UK and Thailand is big, but also life here is great. I have to say I'm enjoying it very much. I love travelling around Thailand and meeting different people. Previously I've been posted twice in China, once in Cambodia and once in Sri Lanka as a diplomat. They're all very different jobs, but I do think there are certain regional issues, both economically and on the security side, that where you can gain experience by doing multiple jobs in the region. So understanding China's relationships across this region is important. So I've greatly enjoyed spending most of my career in East Asia, and hope there are many more years to come.
Now, to really conclude the interview on a reflective note, could you share some of your personal outlooks as an experienced diplomat yourself? And what do you hope to achieve in your career, both as a British diplomat and now as ambassador to Thailand?
Yeah, well, I mean, as a diplomat, obviously I support positive international relations, and I think on some of the issues we've talked about today, I see a real opportunity for UK and Thailand to work together to build economic growth, to build security, but also for our people to get to know each other. I think we have over 1 million British people coming to Thailand every year. We have many Thai visitors and students going to the UK as well. I feel there's a very strong affiliation between our peoples, linked of course to our monarchies. So I think that's something I want to promote. I would like the trade and investment relationship to grow, and some of the people-to-people links as well.